Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brandon Roberts. Thank you for joining our Decisions Lunch and Learn. Go ahead and give people a few minutes to start joining up. Okay, we're open for questions. Does anyone, I see John and Jeremy joining us. Do you guys have questions about flows, rules, anything in decisions? John's raising his hand. Let's see. John, you should be free to speak. Yep.
Okay, I will be brief. Maybe it's a silly question, but I struggle a little bit trying to find some documentation. So we recently migrated from platform 6 to 8 in decision. So as you know, in the situation like this, all the validation visibility flows, they are moved into the legacy. There is a special paragraph on the form for legacy. I had success to migrate from legacy visibility validation flows. I learned, I understood how they work. I mean, they are working now. The issue which I have is with data flow. I have a flow in the data flow, and these I cannot migrate. I don't know exactly what's the rule, what you do in this situation, how you do this.
You should be able to just leave it as a data flow. You don't need to move it to like an active form flow. It should, so are you not seeing those as data flows?
No. The problem here is I cannot leave it in legacy. That's the issue.
Okay.
My point is to move from there because according with the warning on the forum, they said, do something, don't leave them in the legacy. That's the problem.
Okay, let's see. I believe.
So what I need from you, show me a flow, a flow. I'm talking about the flow in the, which is a data flow in the data flow, which you, I mean, how you build a data flow in 8. It's quick, maybe it's easier and quick.
Okay, yeah, I can show you
yeah,
so our active form flows. So let me share my other screen real quick.
If you can do this, is great. And then.
Yep. So can you see my flow designer right now?
Yes.
Okay, so let me grab a form, pick form, let's see, create new, form 1. So they've been replaced. So data flows have been replaced with our new active form flows. So if you go to properties, oops, let's see, and active form flows.
I did this.
Okay.
But do you know what's happened? If I did this in legacy, the flow which I'm using in legacy has an input option. Here you do not have this input option. No input. So if you click on the start, you cannot. Do you see there is no input field? You cannot input a field for this. How you do this?
So you should be able to select an input. Now
because
they work a little differently now. So they're actually like, so you feed an input into this, correct?
Yeah. I have an input. You are correct. That's the problem. Okay. And I don't know how to do it now.
Okay, so you have form input data. So if you're inputting it like as input data to the form, you can use form input data. But if you have like coming from like a form component, right? So let's just say we have like a label. Okay. Give this a name. Let's see, label input. Right. So now when you go back into your active form flow, let's edit it. Now, if you go to Data Explorer, you can go to Form Data, Label. You can select Label. No, actually, sorry. That is actually Form Input Data, Component Type. It's a bottom bar button. Nope. There is, you should be seeing it. Hold up.
I'll tell you what I try, but I'm not sure. It's a form input. I use a form input, but not here into the steps. If you go in the steps, this is what I try. And in that steps, you have a form input. And then, yes, something like
there you go. Yes, I'm sorry.
And in that way, I try to input, but I cannot input anymore using, if you click on the start, no way. That's the challenge. no way to in the original flow, I had the options to put a string, let's say parameter in the start input, but here there is no such things anymore.
Right, like in legacy flows, you would just
Yes,
go
yes.
and you
In the
can set the
legacy,
flow input.
yeah, you see, you have a flow input, but here you don't. That's the problem, the challenge which I have. So how you deal with this situation?
You should be able to just select it from the flow itself. Give me a second. It's been a while since I actually messed with one of these.
You are in 8 here, yes? Is that correct?
Yep, I'm on 8. Wait, active form flows data. Is this where we actually do this now? I believe it may be.
I tried this, but even if I put a name here, it does not show up. But try, please do it, because.
Yep. Let's do test input. Close this. Get test input. Now we jump into the rule flow. The data explorer, form controller, flow data. That's not what I'm looking for, is it? There's label. Oh, you know what? Wait. Is it going by this or is it going by input? I wonder if it's going by that name. Let me confirm that real quick. Yep, that's where it is. So we actually we go by the name of the actual component here. So right now the name is label input. So you'll go by like, yep. So if I set this to 2, and then if I then jump back into the active form flow, here, go to form data, label input 2, and then you can grab the value from here, whether it's like string value enabled or this is based on the form control.
This is the way how it works. Okay, so there is no way to click on the start and
yeah, you won't be able to like define your inputs on these. You'll just grab the input from the actual form data.
Perfect. Sounds good. I was thinking to the similar, but I didn't finish my test, but I believe, yes. Okay. If you say that, it's great.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing because before we actually used to do that and we would do it by like the data name rather than the actual like component name. So that's a little bit confusing there.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the way. Good. I didn't know, and I try. Okay, that's the first question. The second one, I will be very quick. You don't have to go deeper because it's I open a ticket right now with decision, but I just quick, you just to say yes, no, or something like this. So when we migrated from 6 to 8, I had a bunch of API and their output. I have the question, it's posted already. Perhaps you can find my question. The output, the API output was XML. Now, what I realized in platform 8, the output, so it was a migration. I didn't change anything. Okay, I didn't touch. The output was now JSON, no XML anymore. Now, the consequences, the challenge in this situation is I cannot use XPath, and I have to rethink a little bit. My question for you is, in the platform 8, did you make significant changes regarding with XML? I mean, are you aware XML is still in place? What's happened?
Yeah, it should still be in place. If we go to our service, view it. I thought that was already an option here, but data format, we can select XML format to return that data versus like JSON.
But this is a flow, but I'm talking about API, but it's okay. It's okay. Okay,
right.
Good. I will dig more, and I will provide more information to decision team, and they will deal with this in case I cannot find a way to get around.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. I think that's it with me.
Okay. Let's see. We have Jeremy. Did you have any questions? Need assistance with ticket or need assistance with decisions? Okay, well, this is new to me. I just learned this yesterday on a call. I don't know if this is in newer versions. I'm testing something for another client, so this is a pretty custom build. But one thing you can do when debugging a flow or you're in like a subflow or something like that, right? Let me get this active form flow actually configured real quick. And no, actually, let me do this for a data flow because you can't do this. You can't check these on active form flows. So say test data flow, picker create, say create data flow one. Input from label. So what they have learned, and this could be something you guys have learned, or this might be something you hear for the first time, or something that you're just like, oh, I already knew this. Either or, I will show it off real quick. We have the option now to, let me see. Here we go. Save it. Actually, will this set to start up here. Save it. One thing I did see here, didn't realize you could do this is now with, and this could be obvious to most people, but if you're ever like debugging something and you have like a whole bunch of data that you want to check, or you just want to check the inputs to like data flows or something like that, you can always just right click this here and then you can see the actual input data that's being fed to the flow or to your data flow. So everything like flow data, inputs, system constants, everything that this like data flow has at runtime will be shown here. I saw that yesterday on the call and I thought that was really cool. So that's a little, it may be new to people. It may not be, but that's something I just learned recently about the product. It just goes to show that you can learn, always learn some new things about the product. Let's see. Has anyone here made use of the global debugger before? If not, that is what I'm showing off. Oh, well, that's what I'll show anyway. So, we introduced this in version 7. So it's on version 6, but it's in version 7, 8, and I think I'll be in all higher level versions. We have what we call the global debugger. To turn it on, you'll just go here. You'll use show global debugger. That will open up a tab here. And then we have some grouping options here. We can group everything or group consecutive runs of flows. And we can preserve the data for up to, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, or whatever you want to set. Now, if we do global debugger, we'll just flip this on and I'll just run this flow real quick. Button, and you'll see that flow. And this will basically debug or have a debug session for everything that you're basically running on your environment. This is only to be intended for like development instances, not to be used in production because this can be a memory hog and that can cause your system to crash if you use it for too long. So if you do need to like troubleshoot some parts of your process in testing like UAT or maybe in dev and see how that affects the entire platform, or if you're testing like action visibility rules, folder extension actions, those sorts of things, you can run the debugger and see exactly what's being ran at on your environment. but also keep in mind that isn't best for performance. It should be used for development, maybe even like a quick QA test, but never to be used in production. And I see Alex has joined us as well. How you doing, Alex? Did you have any questions? Need any help with decisions? Yep. Floor is yours.
Hey there. Yeah, I just had a couple of quick questions about, I'm not sure what it's about. It's partially about language, partially about the repository.
Mhm.
So I have a second language that I've created called for French, where I do all my translations. And so one of the things that I notice is that when in the languages tree view, if I right click on my language, it doesn't give me any repository actions. So I mean, it allows me to import or export, but I mean, what I'm effectively trying to do is I'm trying to find an easier way to move these things between environments. So I tried export, that doesn't really work. All it really does is kind of export the definition of the language kind of thing. But when I click on a language in the list view on the right, all of my translations appear. And if I right click on that, that gives me repository actions. So for example, like this morning, I went in and I said check in changes for project, and it seemed to do a lot of work and told me that it was kind of creating checking in 7,500 entries. But then when I go to another server and I right click on the language, I don't get any repository actions either in the tree view on the left nor in the list view on the right. So I'm kind of wondering what I'm missing here.
I'm wondering, I don't know if we intend for languages to be checked out from the repository, but we have them as part. So when you export something, it gets added to a project. Once it's added to the project, we should be able to, when we do an export, what we could do, or what we can do to help or test this, actually, we have the server up. Let me see if I can confirm something real quick. Give me a moment. And is this server still up as a repository? If so, okay, great. So I can test this real quick. So you have a language, let me say, so are you just adding language here? Let's do test
Yeah, no worries. Yep.
language. And then, okay. So then let me go to the settings. And I will need to change my screen real quick. Need to configure the repository real quick. That's a little confidential, so give me a few seconds to do that.
Yep, no worries.
And okay. And we're back. We should be able to see my decisions environment here. So let's do this. So we'll do export. Let's say test language check-in. Continue. Let's do this with dependencies. Don't want all that. We just want, actually, we don't want any of this. That's great. I just want, actually, let me just see if I can just export this single item, this folder. It's okay. I can do this. It's fine. Okay. So now this should be part of the, that's interesting. So we don't even see this as added to a project. So if I go to any of these though, these are part of the project, but this folder does not. That's very interesting. Does not include contents this time. Let's just do this folder. Download that. So then let's try doing a check-in real quick and see if that folder. Okay, it does show as check. It does show up as part of the check-in, but it does not show up on the UI. That's interesting. So we can use when I see things are sort of, I don't see the option to add to the project. I'll just do an export of it and add it to that project that way. When you do an export, it'll give you the option to add it to a project. Once it's then added to the project, you can go to any item that is part of the project and do like a check-in. In this case,
Yeah, so the check-in I'm okay with. It's actually when I go to another server and I go to the language and I right click on it, it doesn't have any repository actions. And when I do the repository actions on the list view, the options I get are add to project, check out project, and open repository server. Like it doesn't have that like check out updates for project kind of thing.
So you can probably get around this by just going to designer repository, doing the checkout project action. And if your project's there, you should be able to select it. And doing that here is the same as if you have a project already there, just selecting it from here again and doing checkout will do the same as like checking out updates. So then you can check them out that way instead of like looking for the folder and looking for the designer repository actions.
Okay, so checkout project is the same as check like if I go into a regular project that's not a language, for example, like on the actual tree view, I get designer repository and it's got checkout updates for project. That's one of my options. So you're saying for the language guy, I go into the list view and I right click and I say designer repository checkout project.
Yeah, you'll just go.
And it's asking me what language, what project I want to check out. So I want to check out fr.-ca. And I say checkout, and you're saying that this brings all the changes over, similar to the checkout updates for project?
Yep, they'll pull out the most recent updates. Now, if there's like a specific, revision you need, you can just specify the revision number, but this should check out the, if you just leave it as this or trunk or whatever branch, it should just check out the latest updates.
Okay, cool. Okay, great. Appreciate that. Oh yeah, yep. So it's telling me that it's downloading 7,348 things. So that's pretty much what I checked in from the other server.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Appreciate that, Brendan.
Yeah, no problem.
I'd love to stick around, but apparently there's a food truck down in the parking lot, so I'm gonna have to go and check that out.
Oh yeah, go take care of that. That's way more important to this.
Appreciate that, Brendan. Cheers.
All right, have a good one.
You too. Bye now.
Bye. Okay. Let's see. I think we have released. We released 8.4. Now I haven't got a in-depth chance to really look into it, but 8.4 has introduced a lot of new fixes and bug fixes. One particularly with the repository. I know if anyone's on call has messed with the repository, it's been a bit of an issue, and there's been some trouble doing check-ins. 8.4 has resolved that issue, so check-ins for the repository in the future should be much smoother for your environments. It's also gotten much quicker as far as check-in. I can probably just do the check-in real quick to show you guys. This repository check-in all. Oh, it's too fast to do it. But in newer versions, if you're checking in like a huge amount of resources, now we have a nice little progress bar that goes across and actually shows you what's being checked in, and also shows that there's issues with checking something in as it like goes along its process. So that's a nice little improvement there. We've got loads of new improvements in 8.4. If you are curious, you can always head to our release notes on our documentation site and go through our release notes to see what's been fixed or what's been improved in the product. Does anyone else have any questions? Someone's raising their hand, or someone was raising their hand. Was that okay, John? That's you. You wanna?
Brandon, a quick question
Yep.
regarding with the form. So now the flows which are working on validation, visibility, these flows,
Mhm.
they can be reused in if they are subflow and so on. I read the documents. The question which I have is, I saw anytime when I build a new flow, the flow is attached to the form with a new number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
So question is, there are some situation when a flow is missed, is failed, whatever, but the form, it's still, when I create a new one, it's moving forward, it's counting. So I have reached the point when I have, for one form, I have only 3 flows, but the form, it's counting 20 or 12 because I made many trial.
Mhm.
So question is, are these flows, the bug one, the fake one, phantom, it's a problem? Again, I have attached 3 flows which are working, but the form is counting 20 because I made trials.
Mhm.
So is it can be this a issue? What you do with this situation, or you remove, or the count doesn't matter? What do you think about this?
The count really shouldn't matter as far as naming goes. It should be just going by, I think the form flows are done by like their GUID. So it's given like I believe it's like given like the GUID of like the parent flow or parent form, and then like a dot, and then like the rest of the GUID. So if like, but do you want to like, they should be fine because we should check by GUID. But do you feel like you need to, remove them? You can always go to like folder view. You go to change, I believe, go to all folder items with hidden, and you'll see if it is like, you'll see the rule flow here. So this is the one I created earlier, but they'll show up as hidden items here. So you can go to any, like, normally you just go into they'll be in like I believe the designer folder where they were created, or more likely where the folder is. So either where, not the folder where the form is, or where they were created. But if you go to folder view, you go to hidden, you should see them under hidden items. And then you can just right click and like delete them if you need to, if you don't feel comfortable, if you want to get rid of them, you can get rid of them that way.
Okay.
But we should be going by their ID, so I don't think that'll be an issue. I can just show you real quick. Like they'll have the flow name dot and then dot rule flow. That's the key there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Does anyone else have any questions? I don't think I have any other tidbits today, so I think we're good to go ahead and end it a bit early today. I want to thank you guys for joining today. If there are more questions, if you hit more problems, or if you just want to come and just, see more new things about the product, or just listen to our team talk about it. Again, we do this Monday through Thursday, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. I think tomorrow, who's on the board? I think tomorrow we have Akshay. I believe he's one of our sales engineers. They're the ones that do a lot of like POCs. So they know a lot of tips and tricks and, other sorts of things we do to build proof of concepts for our upcoming, customers. So they have a lot of know-how on how to build, how to make something work a certain way. And I definitely encourage anyone that has like questions or wants tips on like how to build something to join there. All right, I think we're good to end. You guys, thank you for joining and listening to me talk for 30 minutes. You guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
No problem.